Hey, I just wanted to give a really quick review about this LEKATO looper. In short, I think it's really worth the money, and I recommend it even to a friend. This is a device I bought with my own money. I was on the market for a looper. This is the first loop I've ever owned, and I was doing a lot of research, and I saw that this was the cheapest one on the market. And if I wanted more features than what this gave me, I could spend like twice as much, maybe 3 times as much, and I would get something like an LCD screen, which was pretty. But I didn't really get any tangible features until I started spending like 4 to 6 times as much as what this thing costs. And to me, that kind of made it a no-brainer to start with something very basic like this thing, see if I like it, and then if I want to spend that money, I could. And I think it serves that use case very well. LEKATO could make just a couple firmware changes to this thing, and it would be perfect for that. But even as it exists, I still think it's worth it. So talking about the feature set, I want to mention one thing before I get into it, because I'll forget. The USB port on the side, it's USB-C. And so in the images, and I think in the manual, it shows USB micro. I was really bummed about USB micro, but when I got it, it had a USB cable in the box, and sure enough, the port was USB-C. So I'm super thrilled to see that. While I'm on the topic, that just allows you to pull anything you've recorded on this off of it, or put something from your computer onto it. So you could have a jam track or just a full-blown song that you could put onto this and just have it on any loop. And I'll show you the power save feature in a second, but in short, when you lose power and restore power, it doesn't forget what you recorded. So it's got 3 loops. I'm on loop 3 here, and I'll just go to one of the loops I've already recorded. So this is loop 1. I've got Let It Be by the Beatles I've done some recording to. And you can see the blue LEDs going around telling you where it's at in the loop. And so when it gets to the end of that track, it's going to start over. One cool feature about this is while you're in the middle of a loop, you can hit the small button, which is kind of hard to do with your foot, but you can hit it. It's still playing loop 1, but when it gets to the end, it'll go to loop 2. And so that's the chorus of Let It Be. So really cool feature, so you can really do a full song on this. Solo over it. It's got independent volume control, so you can crank your amp up super loud, plug in, and it'll just give you straight pass through, but you can crank this guy super down, all the way to 0 if you want to, so you don't hear anything, or just hear very little, and you can solo on top of it clearly. At any point, you can double tap this to stop, and then it'll go to the pause mode. And so let's talk a little bit about recording. This is loop 3. I don't have anything on this right now, you can see, because the LEDs are blank. If I hit this button, it will start recording. And so I've got my guitar on the stand here. I'll just pluck the E string. And let's say that was it. That's all I wanted. And so you can hear that E come through, and it'll keep looping around and around. And if at any point you're like, ooh, I want something else on top of it, you can do that. And let's say we want a high E on top of that right there for some reason. Pause that, and now we've got the high E in there. But let's say, oh, no, I don't want the high E. At any point, you can erase the last thing you did just by pressing and holding. And so now when the loop comes back around, you won't hear that high E anymore. To completely erase a track, you have to pause it and then press and hold here, and then it'll go back to start. If you're somebody who maybe is new to looping like I am, this sync feature I thought was kind of cool. You can press and hold, and this LED right here will light up, and that lets you know it's listening, waiting for you to play. And so if I play that low E again, you can see that LED jumped over there. That's telling you I'm listening, and you have to stop it yourself. But you can hear it when the loop starts. It's going to start right when I pluck that E string. Pretty good, right? It sounds basically right on. So pretty good stop-start feature for those who are maybe new to looping. Let's erase that again. And then the last feature I should talk about is the tuner. And this is the feature that I think LEKATO could have done a little bit better, would have made this 10 out of 10. So you hold this for 3 seconds, and it goes into looper mode. And so if I pluck the E string, you can see my E string is not quite perfect. It lights that blue LED up when it, so my high E string, maybe it's a little better. It's almost there, but apparently I'm a little low. I have compared this to some other tuners I have, and it is accurate, so I do trust it. But the thing I don't like about it is it doesn't act like a normal tuner. Normal tuner, this button basically controls your pass-through. So you stomp it, you have pass-through, stomp it, it cuts audio off. And I wish if this thing operated like that, and if it stayed in tuner mode when you powered or unpowered it. What that would mean is that you could buy this looper, and if you outgrow it one day, you could just turn it into a tuner, right? Put it in tuner mode, and you never run it in looper mode again. And if the LEKATO just changed the firmware for it to operate like that, it would make it perfect, highly recommendable. Even without that, I still recommend it. The tuner is a good feature to have, and even if it didn't have that tuner feature, it would still be worth it. They could have gone just a little bit further and made it just an easy sell. Unfortunately, as it is right now, if you hit this button, it just takes it out of the tuner mode back into looper mode. So I think the last thing I mentioned I was going to show you was the power feature. So I just unplugged it and I'll plug it back in again, and it does save your loops, as I mentioned. So if I hit this, we're playing "Let It Be" by the Beatles again. So highly recommend this guy. As I mentioned, it was the cheapest one on the market when I bought it. I think it's got well enough features to warrant the cost, and if you outgrow it one day, at the very least it's a tuner you can have on your board to help you tune. So that's all I got. I hope you guys liked the review. LEKATO, if you're listening, I saw in your manual that you'll have an accessory wireless pedal that might be compatible with this. It looked kind of interesting. If you guys want me to maybe give a review like this to it, I'd be happy to receive one. This one I paid with my own money, but LEKATO, I'd be happy to do some more for you if you guys are interested. So thanks guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Okay folks, let's take a closer look here. So here is our pedal, and I have a 9-volt battery with a pedal dongle here, and if you plug that in, we see sort of lights up, then it goes to 1, like that. That indicates that it's ready to accept a loop. Now, this is not included. This is my own that I already had. Now, that's an interesting note that nothing is included to power this pedal, so you need to have your own power solution. You could also power it with a pedal power supply like this one here, and this actually happens to be a LEKATO pedal power supply, but if I plug that in, we see the same behavior. Everything lights up, and then bam, it is ready to accept a loop. Now, a couple real quick things I want to point out. If we push this button, we can cycle through. It has 3 loops in storage, so you can cycle through them. All right. If you hold this button for 1 second, this light comes on. This is sync mode, where it will automatically start looping when you start playing. And then if you hold it for 2 seconds, it goes into tuner mode here, where it works just as a standard tuner pedal. Remember, it came with the USB cable. Now, in the manual, it says the USB cable cannot be used to power it, but it can be used to upload config files or WAV files to it. Well, if I plug this in, it lights up just like it does with the battery. It goes to 1, and then bam, it goes to U, saying, that it's not usable as a pedal in this configuration. Now, that is quite confusing in my opinion. I think a lot of people are going to be confused by that because it comes with the USB cable. It doesn't come with a 9-volt cable or anything like that. And it does power the pedal up, but it doesn't power it up to a state where it can be used. I think that is very confusing. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the output to my audio interface. Okay, so I've plugged the guitar into the looper pedal here, and you can hear that. So there's our kind of raw tone. And then what we're going to do, first thing we're going to do is clear out what's in there. Okay. Okay, so now what we can do is we can put it into sync mode by holding this for 1 second. And then according to the manual, what that should do is when I start playing, it should start the loop, but I still have to stop it manually. So let's try that. See if that works. There we go. So we can do that. Of course, I can add something by re-looping. So let's do that right now. Now that note should be captured in there. There we go. And again, I could add another one. Now both of those should be in there. There you go. And of course I can still play live on top of it. And there you go. That's basically how it works.
I just got this LEKATO looper in today, and I've got to send it back. I don't have anything plugged into it. I unplugged the inputs, but you can hear that it's noisy. As soon as I put power onto it, you can hear it. And then as soon as I turn on my tremolo pedal, it's unbearable.